What is going on, guys? Matt down to a daily grind fantasy sports here to give you the edge for this NBA 9-game slate on DraftKings. Cannot wait to break it down. Love the sizes of 9-game slates. It's that perfect combination of not too much injury news, but just a little bit to help it keep it interesting. So I'll be breaking down all the information for you right now. Now let's go ahead and dive right into this NBA 9-game slate on DraftKings. Before we jump into the actual content that we have for that, what I've been doing is I've been going over all of my recent success on the previous slate before. That way you guys have an understanding of what kind of direction you guys need to go for double ups, for GBPs. I give you my overall strategy and my mindset. Plus, transparency is everything in DFS, and I like to give you guys my exact results. Now, last night was a Sunday slate, so it was weird. There's only 3 games, and everybody's watching the NFL action, but I knew I had to get in on some NBA action. That being said, Ja Morant was out for the Memphis Grizzlies if you guys didn't play the slate. So I all-out stacked the Grizzlies and bigger GBPs. Now, as you guys know, that game did blow out, like completely it was like a 30-point lead going into the fourth quarter. So honestly, all of the starters sat the entire quarter, and I still came out like barely losing that much money at all. I cashed in those exact GBPs where I stacked those Memphis Grizzlies, and I lost in my double ups because the chalk just didn't hit because of the blowouts. So let's actually take a look here. This is my double up lineup. I had Tyus Jones at 68%, Bane 49%, Davis 57%, Jaren Jackson 47%, Chua 56%, Fox 45%, Tatum 65%, and Cunningham 31.8%. This actually ended up being the chalk lineup. This was duplicated a lot, so I didn't have enough exposure to some of the cheaper guys in Memphis who did crush. It just really sucks because if they played the entire fourth quarter, I would have done very, very well. And I want to show you what my GBP lineup actually looked like. I full out stacked them. I'm not kidding. Like, I stacked every single one of the Memphis Grizzlies. I think this was the lineup. No, this actually wasn't it. This was another GBP, which I got a little bit different. But yeah, here is the lineup. I do believe I finished with 254. And can you just imagine the upside I would have had here? I believe the winning GBP lineup in this contest had like 303. The other one had 280. So 303. I have to think that I would have scored an additional 54 points, or 50 points rather, to take first place in this contest if these guys played the entire fourth quarter. Like, Bane would have played, Melton was heavily in the rotation, Dillon Brooks would have played. You got to think I would have got 50 additional points from these guys, especially based on what they were doing if this game did remain close. But like I said, I played Tyus Jones, Steven Adams, Jaren Jackson, again from the Memphis, all of them are from the Memphis Grizzlies, Dillon Brooks, Bane, and Melton, and that was my lineup construction. I knew that getting different with Steven Adams was a huge piece here, and he obviously finished very well, but he would have scored like 40 plus points if he would have stayed in the game versus Sacramento. I also knew I would have gotten different by paying up for Anthony Davis. He was a little bit lower owned. De'Aaron Fox, I probably would have got different knowing he was going to be 44.1% owned. I didn't know that with Van Vliet on the slate he was going to be that high owned. Regardless, some of these other guys were a little bit lower owned, like Dillon Brooks didn't fit a lot of builds, and then obviously the rest of the Memphis Grizzlies. So I only got different in it looks like 2 to 3 spots, and if this game did not blow out, I would have 100% taken down this contest. But my process is still sound. I'm sticking to the process here. It just didn't go in my favor. Obviously, we did not expect that game to be a blowout. It was only a 4-point spread, and I think it was in the favor of the Kings, if I do recall, with Ja Morant being out. Maybe they need to keep Ja Morant out. Anyway, that was my success. And also, guys, on our website, this is what our website actually looks like. Our cheat sheets, rather. So if you sign up for a membership, you get access to all these things. I didn't update the slate for this morning yet, just to show you guys what this looks like. So as you guys can see, you can sift through my core. This was my core for yesterday's slate here. I had Jason Tatum, Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bane, and Tyus Jones in my core. You can literally just select on mine and TJ's our cash plays. Like, you can just look through the highest owned plays and make a lineup based on the cash viable plays. You can even go through my favorite GBP plays. And on this cheat sheet, you have access to all of our ownership projections, which you can sort by, view the highest owned guys, the best value plays on the slate. Terrence Davis was up there, Melton, Alex Lynn, all these guys. And then we also have FanDuel and Yahoo ownership. You can even sort through defense versus positional matchups and all that good stuff. So this is what you have access to. And again, this is for every single sport. So not just NBA, NFL showdown slates will be covering. And I also have the little automated buttons where you can go up top and sort by my favorite overall plays. But that's what you get access to if you sign up for the $20 monthly membership. On top of that, you can also gain access to our Fantasy Cruncher tools. If you sign up for a $30 membership, you get a $20 voucher to any Fantasy Cruncher optimizer, which you'll see I am utilizing for this video. If you guys are brand new to the scene, Fantasy Cruncher is the most powerful optimizer on the market. And again, if you sign up for a $30 membership, you get a $20 voucher to any Fantasy Cruncher product. But all of that out of the way, let's now focus on this NBA slate, and let's go with what we know as of right now. Of course, we have some pending injury news that we will recap here. Going through each game, Orlando is pending injuries on Mo Bamba and Terrence Ross. If either one of those guys are ruled out, that is very significant. Some center minutes will go to the backup guys here. And same thing with Terrence Ross. We'll shift up the usage rate. Also, Cole Anthony is out for Orlando, so we will be paying attention to that picture once we hear more injury news here on Mo Bamba. With Philly, looks like Joel Embiid is back, thankfully. Shake Milton is questionable. That really won't impact them too much because the salaries have been adjusted upward to reflect Joel Embiid being ruled out. So all of that taken into consideration, we're just waiting on that picture there for Orlando. With Denver, Jokic is questionable. However, all the price tags have come up on the other role players in that game. So really not too much interest there. If Jokic is ruled out, then yes, I do have some interest in GPPs, but really not a good matchup here versus the Heat because it is a lower over-under right now, a 207.5. Jimmy Butler is questionable and Tyler Hero. If either one of those guys or both of them are ruled out, that is very significant because Jimmy Butler, as we know, one of the biggest usage guys here in the entire NBA, and especially for Miami here, will definitely impact this entire picture in terms of rotations. We'll give usage rates to guys like Bam, Kyle Lowry, Duncan Robinson, and Tyler Hero if he does play. With Charlotte, nothing really going on there. Mason Plumlee doesn't really impact the usage or minutes too much with the centers. Just going to breeze past them. With Chicago, Williams is still out. Vucevic is now playing, so that is something to note. Vucevic is actually a good value himself in terms of the 8K range, but nothing really going on there with Chicago. Kenrich Williams is out for OKC, and now SGA is playing, so that does give some minutes here to some backup power forward, small forward minutes. We'll be paying attention to them here in a little bit. With Houston, Jalen Green is still out. That does give a slight usage bump to some of these guards, and also the usage rate as a whole here with this team. With the Pacers, Warren is still out, doesn't really impact them. Karis LeVert is finally back and playing close to starter minutes. He played 34 minutes last game and 29 the game before that, so we expect him to be without any minute restriction, so I do like Karis LeVert there for value. We will be paying attention there in a little bit. Patrick Beverley has been out for a couple games. The price tags have come up on the other guards, so really nothing going on there. With Cleveland, it looks like we have a close to fully healthy roster there. Nothing really going on there. Dean Wade's the only guy that's doubtful and doesn't really impact them in terms of usage or minutes. Luka's back for Dallas, so nothing going on there. Brunson is questionable if he is ruled out. The price tags have been adjusted already for this roster. Nothing really going on there for the Dallas picture. With the Washington Wizards, we have Bryant and Hachimura still out. That's the same picture there. Collins still out for the San Antonio Spurs. Nothing really going on there. McDermott's questionable and Vassell is technically questionable. I do expect both of them to play, but if they are ruled out, just a little bit of interest there for the Spurs. And then Portland, Norman Powell was ruled out very late yesterday, so the price tags have not adjusted for the Portland Trailblazers, so we will be paying attention to some of those backup players. Nasir Little is expected to start, so that's definitely some good value. Again, a lot of interest there in the Portland Trailblazers. With Utah, Royce O'Neal is questionable. If he is ruled out, then a lot of minutes do go up for some of these guards like Bogdanovic, Mike Conley, and also Clarkson. So definitely a little bit of interest there if Royce O'Neal is ruled out. And last but not least, we do have the Pelicans and the Clippers. Nothing really going on there. The exact same injury report we're used to seeing here from these two teams. And now let's go with what we know and go over the ownerships. The ownerships have been updated for you guys via Fantasy Cruncher. So we're going to be going down the list and see what makes sense for cash, some good GPP plays, and going team by team and kind of uncovering why these ownerships are the way that they are. So starting out here at the very top with Nasir Little, showing the highest owned on the slate here at 30.9%. I mentioned him here in the Portland Trailblazers report. But without Norman Powell on the court, let's actually take a look at some of the usage rates here. McCollum averaging 1.18 fantasy points per minute. Damian Lillard averaging actually less, with 1.1 here to start the season. Simon's actually averaging 0.91 and going down to Nasir Little here, averaging a respectable 0.88, especially at his price tag. So if we take a look at his price tag, $3,500. I know it's not the best matchup for the for Portland going against Utah, but you just got to look at the price tag here. $3,500. It's going to be really hard to imagine that he doesn't hit that price point, especially in 31 minutes. I don't think he quite averages 0.88 fantasy points per minute, but as long as he's playing minutes, this guy kills it. 27 minutes, he hit 25, 29 minutes, he hit 31, 28, he hit 41. So again, we expect him to play 31 minutes. So anything over about 28 minutes, he's killed value, and I get it. Not the best matchup, but they are favored here. The Utah Jazz only by 7 points, so this should be relatively competitive. A 223 over-under is the second highest over-under on the slate. Going down the list here, Anthony Simons, 15.2% ownership, only projected 25 minutes. He's technically teetering on that cash/GPP category. I do prefer him more for GPPs just because of the minute upside. He's only expected to play 25 minutes, but he's still averaging 0.91 fantasy points per minute, and I do like the upside, especially at lower ownership here. Comes out to a 5.69 point per dollar value. Larry Nance doesn't really impact that much, or doesn't get impacted that much in terms of minutes, but he's still projected to play 25 minutes. As you can see here, the last time he played 25 minutes, he hit 39 points. Do like him here as a last piece in cash. Again, he's showing a little bit lower ownership, 13.5%. And just the way the builds are coming together, he doesn't really fit a ton of builds, so I do consider him cash viable, but he's definitely more geared towards GPPs, especially since the fact that he is a power forward / center eligible, at least in terms of DraftKings, so you can fit him into that forward build, or you can even put him into a center build. CJ McCollum, let's actually talk about him. One of my favorite GPP options on the entire slate, just because he does get a slight boost in usage and fantasy points per minute, and technically averaging more than that of Damian Lillard here. Right now we have him projected for 36 points, and they will need him if they're going to want to keep it close here, averaging 1.18 fantasy points per minute without Norman Powell in the lineup. Right now he's coming out to a 5.6 point per dollar value. Let's actually go back to the list here. We're going to be going down to Deshaun Tate here at $4,800. Does get a minute boost with Jalen Green off the court. Last game he played 36 minutes, and I do expect him to play probably close to that again. He's not the best historically fantasy point per minute wise, but he does average 0.97 here without just Deshaun Tate here on the court. So I do like that. I like that a lot here, especially based on what he did last game. If we go to the Houston Rockets, they are playing at home, and we have him penned right now for 26.19 points. I get it. It's not the best point per dollar value. Right now, they have him projected for 27 points, but he did play 36 minutes last game. I get the game did go into overtime, but again, as long as he plays over 30 minutes, I do like him from a fantasy point per minute perspective and a value perspective. Kevin Porter's next in line here. Probably my favorite overall play from this team because he does handle the ball here without Jalen Green in the lineup. Really do like him at that 6.8K price tag, averaging 1.09 fantasy points per minute. He's going to be playing the entire game. We have him projected for 35 points, a 5.61 point per dollar value, and a very good matchup here versus the OKC Thunder. Houston is favored, surprisingly, but only by 2 points. 20.6% ownership. He does fit a lot of builds and probably the chalkiest point guard options here on the slate. Christian Wood is next in line. He was power forward eligible last slate, but it looks like they took that off of him because of the amount of ownership he did have. I do like him. I think he's more of a GPP option, though, only showing 12.7% ownership, 32 projected minutes, comes out to a 42.88 fantasy projection and a 5.23 point per dollar value. Next in line here, we do have Caris LeVert. He's going to be the only guy I'm going to be talking about here from the Pacers. Him and probably Brogdon. Just soft price tags. It's really all it comes down to, and they fit a lot of builds. Not only that, Caris LeVert does fit in as a shooting guard player, so if you're able to get him into your lineup, it does make it very, very easy for you in terms of lineup construction. So I do like him here at 25.3% ownership. He's the third highest owned on the slate and just fits a lot of builds. That's really all it comes down to, and a good matchup. We have him projected for 30 minutes, and again, he did play 34 last game, so I do like the minute upside here with Caris LeVert. Malcolm Brogdon is just another guy that fits a lot of the builds, 18.4% ownership. Nothing more that needs to be said than Brogdon at $7,400 does fit a ton of builds. That's pretty much it. Josh Giddey, $6,500. Let's actually talk about the OKC Thunder. They are without Kenrich Williams. He doesn't really get impacted in terms of minutes, but he's just a safe overall play. And again, fits a lot of builds, 1.03 fantasy points per minute. He's also shooting guard and small forward eligible, so you can fit him into that position, small forward, guard, or forward, or utility. So he fits so many builds in that mid-range price. 1.03 fantasy points per minute. I do like Josh Giddey here in the spot. Also, Lou Dort does get a slight minute boost here without Kenrich Williams. We have him projected for 34 points. He's used to playing around 30 to 32 minutes. Has been playing an extreme amount of minutes as of late. So I do love the minute upside here. And Lou Dort, even though he only averages 0.89 fantasy points per minute, I like him to get it done as long as he's seeing 30 plus minutes. And also showing decently high owned at 23.1% owned. Darius Bazley is another guy that's kind of teetering on that line of cash/GPP category, 16.5% owned, 4.7K. He does get a slight minute boost. We have him projected for 29 minutes. He hasn't been playing that many minutes, but when he does play 31, 33, 34, 33, comes around value, and he is averaging 0.84 fantasy points per minute without Kenrich Williams on the court. Last but not least, let's talk about Robinson Earl. 27 minutes is what we have him projected. I definitely think this is more of a GPP play, but he has been pretty impressive here, averaging over 0.9 fantasy points per minute when he has been playing. But again, the minute upside's not going to be there. Definitely more of a GPP option in my opinion. And then just to kind of go through the board here, and again, this is a video going with what we know about this NBA slate. We are still pending crazy good injury news on the Orlando Magic. That's something to be paying attention to. and a couple of these other teams around the league. So if anything is updated, I will be pinning a post in the YouTube comment section below with my favorite updated plays. But right now, Jakob Poeltl fitting a ton of builds, $5,700. I think, just a very good matchup. He's been playing consistent minutes, 29, 34 the past 2 games. As long as he does stay out of foul trouble here versus these very bad Washington Wizards bigs, I do like him here in the spot. And honestly, just probably one of the more overall obvious plays here in terms of the center position. We talked about Kevin Porter, Donovan Mitchell here in the pace-up spot, $8,100, killed it last game, and that got pulled here in the fourth quarter. Only played 27 minutes, so I do like Donovan Mitchell here. Does technically get a usage boost without Royce O'Neal out of the lineup. I don't think that's really that correlated, but at $8,100, I definitely can get behind that because it is a cheaper price tag. One of the cheaper superstars here on the slate. And then a couple other guys I want to talk about here. Tobias Harris, $7,800. You just got to think about that from a value perspective. Pretty good, pretty soft price tags. However, they are a 14-point favorite here versus the Orlando Magic, so that's one thing to consider. There is some blowout potential there in that game. And then Paul George is the last guy, probably the most obvious pay-up option on the slate. Great matchup, decently higher over-under here at a 211. And he's just a safe option. Has all the usage without Kawhi Leonard obviously being out for the first part of the season at a 10.2K price tag. I know he's been struggling, but he still has a tremendous high usage rate and showing one of the chalkier pay-up options on the slate here at 15.2% ownership. And now let's go over to my favorite prize pick entry for this slate. It's going to be Wendell Carter Jr., a 30 fantasy scorer. I'm going to hit that over on him. Cole Anthony is technically out, and Mo Bamba is questionable. If he is ruled out, I think Wendell Carter is in an absolute smash spot. Again, I think he's fine even with just Cole Anthony out. So 30 fantasy score. If you guys haven't signed up for Prize Picks, go ahead and enter code using DGF for 100% match. I think this is a free score here. Wendell Carter Jr. 30 over for the Orlando Magic. And that will wrap up my content, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy this content. If you did, please do hit that subscription button, notification bell, and of course, smash that like button for all of our future NBA content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day, and let's cash.